Hi, everybody. Thanks for logging on today for our Cougar Career Academy presentation. My name is Carrie Nepple, and I am an assistant director with the WSU Alumni Association. So on behalf of our organization, again, thanks for being here. We're really excited about today's presentation. Just a couple quick announcements before we do get underway. This session is being recorded. So if you would like to share this with others at the end, or if you would like to go back and rewatch, that will be available for you online, and I will post the link in the chat where you'll be able to access that recording later today. And then if you wouldn't mind keeping yourselves muted during the presentation, there will be times for question and answers, at which point you are more than welcome to unmute yourself to ask a question, or if you want to ask questions during the chat while the presentation is ongoing, I would be happy to help relay those to our presenter. So without further ado, I'm going to turn everything over to our guest presenter today, who is Hilary Bennett, the founder and CEO of Hilary Bennett Consulting. We're so excited to have her here today, and I'm going to let her drive the bus for the rest of the hour and share with us a little bit about accountability and productivity. So Hilary, take it away.
Thank you so much, Carrie. So first of all, go Cougs. It's so exciting to be here. As you're coming into the room, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're zooming in from. I love how Cougar Nation is just this global thing. In all of my travels, and I've gotten to travel all around the world, I have always seen a Coug when I am abroad. I went to China. I saw a guy wearing a Coug's hat on the Great Wall of China. And my husband was also wearing a Coug hat, so we had a great Go Cougs moment on the Great Wall. I also remember going to Belize, and there was this beautiful palapa bar, and people would write their names or a little note in the wood on the palapa bar, and there were Go Cougs everywhere on that palapa bar. So I love to hear. We've got Zoe from New York City, GD from Missouri. I am from Vancouver, Washington. So if any of you are Vancougers, we have to love WSUV. And I'm just so grateful and honored that you decided to share your time with us. So, from Everett, Washington. Hey, Shelly, Richland, Washington, love it. So I am going to share my screen here. And it's always fun figuring out how to do Zoom and screen sharing and all the things. So I appreciate all of your patience if and when that sort of thing happens. I want to make sure I can see the chat. So I do want this to be interactive. Definitely feel free to put questions in the chat. I'll be keeping my eye on that as we go along. And as Carrie said, there will be time afterwards for us to have some live Q&A, but I don't want you to forget what your question was. So if, like me, if you don't write it down immediately, you forget it, just throw it in the chat. And if I'm not able to take it right then and there, then we'll be able to get that at the end. I am going to be asking you questions as well. So I know you'll ask me some questions, but I'm going to turn the tables on that. So be sure to respond in the chat. Don't leave me hanging. I think it's so amazing that we have this technology of Zoom so that we can be together even when we're apart. But we really have to make the most of it so that it feels like we're actually together, even though we're not. So first of all, I just want to know, and you can just put me or something in the chat, who here has ever felt overwhelmed? Who here is feeling overwhelmed right now? You can kind of raise a hand in the video. You can say me. Oh yeah, we've got Zoe. Thumbs up, Zoe. And I want to know, what are you currently feeling overwhelmed with? There's so much going on in our lives, so much going on in our world that, yeah, I want to know, like, is it work? Is it home? Is it relationships? Because with some of those things, if I'm able to know a little bit what we're all going through here today, I am able to add a little bit of that into what we talk about. Yep, work and personal. Tara, work, personal. Shelly, oh my gosh. Yes, work for sure. Okay, you guys, I love Cougars. This is going to be so much fun. Okay. Work, my computer is on the kitchen table, so I feel I should always be checking in. Julie, yes, I feel you there. All right. So for me, I am very achievement oriented. I say I'm a recovering perfectionist and I have major FOMO, which is fear of missing out. So I'm super familiar with what it feels like to be overwhelmed and how overwhelm can sabotage what you're working towards, right? As an entrepreneur, I have had to learn how to manage that overwhelm because, as opposed to my career in corporate America, now there is no one holding me accountable. And there's no one to pick up the slack if something falls through the cracks because I was so overwhelmed that I wasn't able to actually do what I thought I needed to do. In my case, it's like leaving money on the table. Nobody wants to do that. So I am here today to share with you some of those things that have helped me manage my overwhelm. We're going to be talking about goal setting and not necessarily goal setting the way that you might have experienced it professionally, but goal setting that is really all about alignment, intentionality, and purpose. We're going to talk about my one thing formula, which was a game changer for me and helped me go from really a business that was failing to survive to a business that I was getting cash and clients. So I'm excited to share with you my one thing formula. And then lastly, we're going to do some troubleshooting. What happens when, even though you're doing all the right things, you still feel overwhelmed? We're going to be talking a little bit about that. Before we dive in, I want to share with you a little bit about me. So, again, I am Hilary Bennett, and I am the CEO of Hilary Bennett Consulting. And what I do through HBC is I am a mindset and business strategy coach. I specifically focus on helping mompreneurs. But before I became a business and strategy coach, I had 12 years working in corporate America at one of the oldest and largest companies that exists. Primarily, I was in leadership development and I would coach emerging leaders as they moved into the leadership pipeline and started taking on some of their first leadership positions. I loved that work, and the company that I was with treated me so well, gave me a lot of opportunities, and I was doing well. But I started to feel that I was being called in a different direction and really did love the time where I was able to coach. And so I pursued being certified as a whole person coach, which I am, as well as being accredited through the International Coach Federation, which just means that I've done hundreds of hours of coaching and I've done over 500 hours of training and have taken a test and all the things, paid for the little badge. And I also have my MBA from Seattle University. So I'm a lifelong learner. My degree from WSU is in business management and operations. I then went and got my MBA and continue to love to just learn how to better myself and how to help others. And that's kind of my resume, but I think some of the most important parts about me that make me who I am is I am a mom of two. I have an almost 6-year-old daughter and an almost 4-year-old son. I am the wife of a middle school teacher. And of course, I am a Coug, go Cougs, Cougs through and through. As I said, my husband is as well. And in fact, during COVID, instead of singing happy birthday 2 times or the ABCs, our family sings the fight song to make sure that we have washed our hands thoroughly. And by the time we start the spelling is when we rinse our hands. So just in case you wanted to spice up your hand washing routine, it's a great idea and a wonderful way to start brainwashing the next generation of Cougs that WSU is the way to go. Yes, Tara, it's so much fun. And I can't tell you how many Go Cougs I've gotten in the bathroom of school or a restaurant when we're all singing the fight song together. I know that this isn't, we're not sitting around a table together, but I would love to get to know a little bit more about you all as well. So in the chat, if you want to share, what you do and kind of those really important things that make you who you are, I would love to be able to see a little bit more about you and get to know each of you a little bit better. Okay, so what I do in my coaching business is I help mompreneurs build and grow heart-centered businesses without sacrificing their families. And it's something that my heart is just overflowing with. But I will say, as I have cultivated tools to help myself and help the mompreneurs I support be able to do these things, even if you're sitting here and you're like, oh, okay, Hilary, I work at a corporate 9 to 5, or I have a side hustle and I'm a stay-at-home parent, or I'm retired and I've got a few different projects. The tools that I'm going to teach you today are applicable across the board. But I did want to make sure that I just share a little bit about what I do and where my heart is. So we're going to dive in here, guys. Goal setting. As I mentioned, this isn't the traditional SMART goals that you are going to be, graded on, and that's going to influence how you're getting paid for the next year. This is intentional goal setting that is meaningful. And so where we want to start is for you to know what you want. What do you want? Sometimes you ask that question, you're like, I have no idea what I want. And more often than not, that's the answer. If you work for someone else, if you're not the boss, it's also critical to be able to answer this question of knowing what you want, because in the case where your goals, your yearly goals are just handed to you, where you don't get a lot of thought that gets put into the goals, you're just given them. It's sometimes hard to attach yourself to those and get motivated. And that's why it's so critical to have goals that are even above your organization or your company's goals. So for example, when I worked in corporate, we were trying to save up money to be able to buy a home so that we could start to build some security and financial abundance for our family. And that was a really big goal that I had. By understanding what that goal was, it gave personal meaning to the business goals and objectives I was given from my boss. And even though I appreciated what my company did, I didn't necessarily want to shout from the rooftops about the products and services. It's not like that specifically is what got my juices flowing. Like, I loved it so much. I appreciated it. I had a lot of pride in it. But without having a higher level goal, a higher level vision of what I wanted for myself, I could have gotten lost. That connection, that motivation could be lost. So the first thing I would want you to do is to know what you want. This is asking yourself, what does my ideal day look like? What does my ideal life look like? We're told that we often need to spend within our means, and I think we're also conditioned to dream within our means. And I'm asking you to take the bowling bumpers off of your ability to dream and just let yourself go wild. What is it that you want? And you can definitely start with things like, I want to pay off my house. I want to go on this vacation. I want to retire. All of those things are good and important. But then I want you to get down deeper a level and figure out, how is it that you want to feel when you wake up in the morning? How do you want to feel throughout your day? How do you want people to feel after having an interaction with you? And then understanding what kind of things help me to feel that way. And this will sort of create that big vision for you, so that you can have this beautiful, juicy, audacious goal that you're setting for yourself and your life. And it was really aligned to your heart and your soul and who you are uniquely as a person. And once you have that, you can then really connect it to whether it's goals that you're creating for yourself or whether they're being handed down. Being able to see, I understand how me achieving these goals is helping me get to that larger vision. I usually recommend that people journal this, but if you are more of an artistic or creative person, you can totally go for the vision board. That is an awesome idea. I love the vision board too, because I will say, after you get clear on knowing what you want, I kind of want you to put it on a shelf. Put it somewhere where you remember that it's there, where you can look at it from time to time if you need to, but it's not staring you in the face every day. If you were to do that, that might actually increase overwhelm. And that's what we're not here to do. We are here to decrease overwhelm and to manage that overwhelm. But it's important that you're clear, because then you can move on to the next step, which is just focusing on the next 90 days. So you know where you want to get. You have that destination to put into your GPS, right? Now we're going to say, what are the next few turns that we need to make? And that's focusing on the next 90 days. What are no more than 3 goals that you can set that will take you towards that big, juicy, audacious dream goal that you have? Now, this is where the SMART goals can kind of come into play. You do want them to be specific, measurable, actionable. I never remember what the R stands for, time-based, all those things. That's fine. But I don't want there to be any more than 3. We want to make sure that you are able to be successful. And please, we have so much going on in our lives. If you've got more than 3, you're going to be going in so many different directions. You're not going to be giving any one thing your 100%. Focusing on the next 90, that's what's going to be keeping more in your direct line of vision. Remember, so we put those big, beautiful, audacious goals up on the shelf. Relevant. Thank you, Zoe. Yes, relevant. The day-to-day, we're looking at like, what are my 90-day goals? What am I going to be doing in the next 90 days? And if you think that's a little bit crazy, let's remember back to 2020 and the goals that we all set in January. How did things go with that? 90 days is all we can really count on, right? Okay, so you focused on the next 90 and then it's time to chunk it down. And in my next piece where we talk about my one thing formula, I'm going to really dive deep into what it means to chunk it down. But if something takes more than 2 hours to accomplish, it needs to be broken down into smaller tasks. So this is taking those 90 days and it's just taking that next step. Like, what are the breadcrumbs that are going to be leading me to those 90-day goals? And then lastly, we need to evaluate and celebrate throughout the journey. Even though you've put that destination in your GPS because you know what you want, that doesn't mean that that might not change. And it doesn't mean that you don't want to take a detour along the way. And so it's so important to take a moment every once in a while and evaluate, is this still what I want? Am I still going in the right direction? And Melissa is going to be joining me here for that next part. Celebrate. Yes. It's all about the journey, right? I mean, it's cliche, but it so is. That's where we're going to find the joy. And it's in the present moment that you actually have the ability to not be overwhelmed if you're able to focus on the present. And so it is absolutely crucial for you to celebrate along the way. If you waited to celebrate until you retired, until you paid off your house, until you achieved those bigger dreams and bigger goals, however long it took you to get there would be a lot of hard work and not so much fun. And it is important that we have fun and that we find the joy in the everyday and that we're able to stay motivated, because it takes hard work. It takes hard work to move yourself forward sometimes. So I would love to hear if there are any questions on goal setting. And yay, celebrate that we all joined this webinar. I can't tell you how excited I am that you all joined this webinar. Thank you so much, Zoe. Any questions on goal setting, go ahead and throw them in the chat. And I can definitely get to those, because I know the whole know what you want piece is a little bit different from what you might typically hear. It's a little bit wooey and a little bit ooey gooey emotional in the soft and fuzzy feelings, and that can be kind of uncomfortable. And so I want to offer support there if you need it. All right, the one thing formula. Guys, this is my favorite part because this is what absolutely changed me and the way I did business as a business owner. I was known as the to-do list queen back in my corporate days. And some mornings I had a to-do list that had 30 or 40 things on them. And one of two things might happen. And I want to hear like, yeah, me too, if this has happened to you. Number one, I would look at the list and I would get so overwhelmed that I would utilize my favorite coping mechanisms, which is avoidance and denial. And I would just procrastinate. So I want to hear from all my procrastinators out there. Who's with me? You see a huge list of things to do and you're like, and I'm going to go do something that doesn't scare the living daylights out of me. Yes, Mary, Hannah. Okay. Now there's another thing that, and Lindsay, you're reading my mind, girlfriend. Okay, here's the second thing that can happen. You don't avoid, you get to work on that list, but you're doing the easiest things and the things that aren't pushing you out of your comfort zone, and you're leaving the challenging, hard things for last, and you never get to last because your to-do list grows and grows. Lindsay is with me. Anybody else there? Now, I think that actually just taking action and getting started on your to-do list can be a great productivity tool to get some momentum going. But if you never leave that, if you never allow yourself to dive into the things that are really going to move the needle, because typically it's not the area that are easy and you're excited to do that's going to move the needle. A lot of times it's that task that's requiring you to step out of your comfort zone and be challenged that's going to move that needle, that's going to give you that big burst towards your goal. And that is the one that keeps going down the list. And so either way, whether you're avoiding and procrastinating or whether you're just doing the fluffy stuff, you're still not moving towards your goal. The one thing formula can help take all of that away. And that is, you only have one thing to do. And I'm going to tell you exactly what that one thing is. Answer this question. What is the most important thing I need to get done today? That's it. What's the most important thing I need to get done today? That is your to-do list. That's it. You're going to focus on that until it's done. Now, there might be times in which you're waiting for someone else's input or to hear back from someone, and you have to kind of move on. Maybe you have meetings or you utilize time blocking to manage your schedule, and all that's fine. You do all your things, but when you have time to work, you're focusing on what is the most important thing I need to do today. Now, remember what I said in the chunk it down, it really needs to be 2 hours or less, okay? Because very few people I know can sit down to their desk and work for, I mean, even 2 hours is a stretch on one solid thing from start to finish until it's done. You need a break. You need to get up from your desk. You need to talk to another human. You need a break. So if it is more than 2 hours, you need to chunk it down. What is your most important thing of the day? The beauty behind this is if you are someone who is balancing a lot of things, you're able to focus. And at the end of the day, you can have something that you're like, okay, I achieved the most important thing for today. I did it. That consistency over time is going to take you closer and closer to your goal every single day. You're no longer thinking about the huge mountain you have to climb. You're no longer focused on the 30 or 40 item to-do list. You're focused on one thing. Now, there's absolutely the chance that you get done with that one thing and you still have time, whether it's a day that you don't have a lot of meetings, or you just get some extra time, or you're super productive and in the zone and you get it done a lot faster than you thought. That's great. You then ask yourself, what's the next most important thing? And it's just one thing. Now, if you are like me, I'm a mom of young kids. And so if I don't write something down, I will forget it. That's just the truth right now. I can barely remember what day it is. So I have to write things down. So I have a working to-do list that is, 30 to 40 things long. I call it my parking lot. I drive my car to the parking lot and I leave it there and I go in for whatever exciting stuff I get to do and I focus there. And then when I'm done, I can go back to the parking lot to my car. Same idea. You have a parking lot of a to-do list. That's fine. Have all of the things there. And if you need to refresh your memory, making sure that things aren't slipping through the cracks, go there, do it. But as you are working through the day, you're just focusing on that one most important thing. So if you get done with that and you have time and space for another one, grab another one. But we want to make sure that you're not doing all the things, that you're doing the right things. Because sometimes there's things on your to-do lists that just don't matter. So I want to real quick practice this right now. Throw in the chat, what is your most important thing that you're going to get done today? I want to hear it. My most important thing was attending this session. Woohoo! Fund your IRA. Okay, and Zoe, is that something that's going to take less than 2 hours for you to do? Awesome. Grading papers. We got a teacher in the house. Prepping for a big presentation. Lindsay, that's where I was all day yesterday, my friend. Tax stuff put together. Janelle, I'm telling you what, I put that off for weeks. And then one day I'm just like, this is my most important thing of the day. I got it done so much faster than I thought. It was so much less painful than I thought. I made it out to be such a bigger deal. Oh, baby taxes instead. Okay, so that's where this question is so important. What is the most important thing? And you absolutely are going to be moving things around. I love this. Okay, this is so great. Now, what happens when you have really clear goals and you are motivated and aligned and you're utilizing the one thing formula with your parking lot to-do list and you are still feeling overwhelmed? I've got the 4 Ds for you. So troubleshooting. This is when you might take your list, whether it's in your head or on paper, wherever you keep it, and you're going to go through the 4 Ds. And the first D is delegate. What can you take off your list and give someone else to do? If you are a leader in your organization, this is great. You have the resources at your disposal. Make sure to use them. If you're not, sometimes you have to get a little creative, but figure out what you can delegate. This may very well involve extra time up front as you train someone to take that off of your list. Oh my gosh, dishes, Melissa, delegate dishes. I wish that I could most days. That's the first D. So delegate, get it off your list. It can be so hard to do. And so that's why I want you to literally go down line by line, your to-do list. Can I delegate this? Can I delegate this? Can I delegate this? Delete is the next D. This is the best one because you don't have to do anything with it other than cross it off. Ta-da! I guarantee you there is at least one thing on your list that does not need to be there. I've said a couple times, stop doing all the things and start doing the right things. What is on your list that is not providing any kind of value, that isn't taking you any closer to your goals? It's not living into any of the values that are important to you. Maybe you're just doing it because someone else thinks you should, or you're trying to manage perceptions, whatever. Nobody has time for that. Delete what isn't actually necessary. Go down the list after you've done the delegate and cut. It's the most freeing thing in the world. Lastly, well, before we get to the do, but the last one that you can kind of get stuff off your list is delay. When you combine this with the one thing formula, you're pretty much already doing this naturally, but going down your list and saying, not even what doesn't need to get done today, but what doesn't need to get done in the next 90 days. If you're clear on those up to 3 90-day goals, there very well may be things that are keeping you up at night that don't even need to be handled right now. Yes, you need to do them, but they can get pushed out to later in the year. Okay. This is different than procrastinating. This is an intentional, smart way of managing your time and taking your priorities where they need to be. Definitely do some self-awareness and make sure it's not procrastinating, that the delay is intentional, but this is not procrastinating. And then lastly is do. This is the list of stuff that you actually get to do, which is so exciting. And those are the things that are going to pop up on your most important thing of the day. Now, the last troubleshooting thing, which doesn't really fit into the 4D, so I'll just tell you all about it instead of having it written down here on the chart, is that sometimes I schedule in, like once every 2 weeks, I actually schedule in a block of time that's just task time, where I go down my list and I take all those really easy things that aren't huge revenue generating activities or aren't really going to help me move the needle. So they never make it onto my most important thing of the day list. They still kind of need to get done. I'll give myself just a little bit of slush time, like how many of those tasks can I get through? I take care of the things that need to get taken care of, but I'm still able to on the daily implement that one thing formula so that again, I can reduce my overwhelm and really hone in on the personal accountability that I can create for myself and find that productivity. All right. Any questions here on troubleshooting? What do you think is the hardest D to implement? What is the hardest one for you to do? Is it to delegate, delete, delay, or is it do that's the hardest thing? Oh my gosh, Zoe, you're hilarious. We have got to be friends. Dishes, I totally agree. Yes, delegate. Oh my gosh, so hard because you know what, Sarah, you can do it faster and better yourself, right, girlfriend? I know you can. Delegate or delete, Lindsay. Yeah. Oh, delegate and do, Janelle. I like how you see that in yourself. That's good. Yeah, you really see that delegate is so hard. Shelly says delete. Delegating is so hard. And there is opportunity within delegate, however, to get really creative. And there's opportunity within delegate to be intentional. So a little bit of a mindset shift that might help is that when you delegate, you are actually allowing someone else to operate in their zone of genius. And when you don't delegate, you are preventing them from being able to have that experience. You're preventing them from being able to operate in their zone of genius. So as a mompreneur, I am a one woman show. And for a long time at the beginning of my business, I was really afraid to hire out for anything. A, because I felt like I don't even know if I could tell them what I want to do. B, I was terrified of spending any money. And C, like sometimes, yeah, I could just get it done faster myself. But here's the thing, there's this whole network of other mompreneurs out there that are bookkeepers, that are social media managers, all the things that if I'm keeping that work in-house, I'm probably not getting as good of results as if I let someone who that's their zone of genius do. And I'm preventing them from living into their dream. And I'm preventing myself because I'm busy doing taxes or books or social media when I could be coaching. So I definitely think that you can take that scenario and apply it to wherever you are in life, whether you have a side hustle, whether you're in an organization, or whether you're stay at home. If you keep it all to yourself, you're actually preventing someone else from living into it. And that might be their calling and their purpose. So just a cool little mindset shift on delegate. I love this. I love how involved you guys are. Thank you so much. It's the worst when it's just crickets in the chat when you're trying to do a presentation, right? Okay, so that is all of the meat and potatoes of today. And I want to make sure that if this is resonating for you, or if you think I'm a cool girl and you want to hang out sometime, that we have the chance to connect. So I'm everywhere. But here you can see I'm on Instagram at The Motivated Mompreneur. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me just by searching my name, Hilary Bennett, or I'm at Coach Hilary. So the URL is actually /Coach Hilary. I have a podcast that I do every week. It's the Motivated Mompreneur podcast. So if you love to listen in while you're walking or doing dishes, definitely hop in there, subscribe, and then also feel free to reach out to me via email. I'm Hilary@HilaryBennett.com. I would love to hear from you. Yeah, just happy to connect and share and support wherever that is. Before we open it up for Q&A, I do want to offer a resource to you. All of this, I think, makes sense. I don't think that anyone kind of sits through what I've shared and been like, that doesn't, no. And it probably doesn't sound like too hard. However, actually executing it for yourself can be really tough. And it has nothing to do with willpower, and it has nothing to do with discipline. It has everything to do with the fact that sometimes you're so in your own stuff that it's hard to be able to take that observer view and really make forward progress. And so if you are in that spot, I do offer a product. It's called From Rut to Revenue, and it takes you through almost all of what I talked through today, but more step by step with instructional videos and forms and tools, so that you can do all of this. And I do have a promo code GoCougs, because Cougs are the best. And I will put that link in the chat, but I just wanted to make sure that if you've kind of like, yes, this all sounds good, but I don't know how the heck I could actually do that, I got you. So, and if you don't really want to do that, but you just want to connect and ask me more questions, that's fine too. But with that, I would love to open it up for questions. And I thank everyone for keeping themselves muted so that we all had a good listening experience. But if you have any questions, just go ahead and go off mute. Oh, I see a question in the chat from Zoe. How long do you leave a one thing as the primary item if you don't get it done? 1 day, 2 days longer? That is a great question. So hopefully you actually never you will, but hopefully you won't come across this very often, because you are following the one thing formula, and that it's something that you know you can get done that day, 2 hours or less. But if it does if you keep having an issue with it, I think just kind of feel it out. If it's creating a roadblock for you, put it back on the parking lot, bring something else in that's just as important or close to being as important, and get that momentum started again. It also could be very possible that you are thinking a couple steps ahead. So we often think of more of the end result as opposed to the little nitty-gritty steps it takes to get somewhere. So if you do find that you're having to keep, pushing something out, ask yourself, like, what is a smaller step than this that could then help me achieve it, 2 or 3 days, however long, but what is a smaller step? Because ideally you put that one thing on your to-do list for the day and then it's done. But yeah, those are a couple thoughts on that. Thanks for that question, Zoe.
Hilary, do you have any advice on how to prioritize your to-do list when you're trying to weigh, your own personal maybe goals and to-do items versus maybe your organization's, and Do you have any helpful tips for how to strike a good balance?
Oh, so I actually don't think that work-life balance exists. I know that might be kind of a rotten thing to say, but I don't think it exists. Balance indicates that something is equal, and you're what, especially, I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you work for someone else. Work is never going to be equal to personal. It's going to be seasons of ebbs and flows. And so I think that instead it's about setting boundaries for yourself that allow you to remain whole. And that's both at work and at home. My podcast this week is actually all about setting boundaries. So if you are like, oh, yeah, I need to do a better job at setting boundaries, take a listen to the podcast. But what I recommend is to first start off with figuring out what would my boundaries look like, or what would my day look like if I felt fully resourced and whole. So take away your job, take away your family, take away whatever obligations exist in your life, and just think about what would that be like? And kind of set up some boundaries that would allow yourself to be fully resourced and whole. Then you kind of put that aside and you say, okay, what are the boundaries that need to exist in order for my family or whatever is in your personal life to live into its values? And I focus on family, like obviously I'm the motivated mompreneur, so that's kind of my lens. But what are the boundaries that allow my family to live into my family values? And so an example for us is that we have dinner together around the table every night together. That's something that's one of our values. And so that would be a boundary. Like I would have to be home, or my husband would have to be home in order to make dinner. And then we all have to be home to eat dinner. So that creates a boundary in my day and my schedule. If I were, working for someone, like this is what time I really need to be off. Can we have a flexible start time? Because this is a boundary for my family. So you take a look at what the boundaries for your family are. And then you take a look at what the boundaries for your work is. Like, what kind of boundaries need to be in place in order for me to be successful at work and to really live into my professional calling? Because work is awesome. It is awesome if you keep it where it needs to be. And so then when you have all three of those answers, you can kind of layer them on top of one another and see where do they conflict, and where can you then make an intentional choice, because you're going to have to choose. Unfortunately, it will be a trade-off. But when you actually take an intentional choice, it brings the power back to you. You're no longer a victim to your schedule, to your boss's expectations, to whatever. You're taking the power and saying, I know that I'm giving up this right now, but it's because, I know that I want to be committed to this place. And it's all a season, right? It's not forever. But I do think that there's a lot about being empowered in your own choices, and that can give you the feeling of balance, because I don't believe balance exists. But with those boundaries in place, you can actually be present in the present moment a little bit better. And I think that that's where the feeling of balance can come from. I see that Lindsay put something in the chat. Work and home will take different priority at different times, and you have to be flexible to allow for that. Yes. And your employer needs to allow some flexibility. Agreed. It's hard though when both are pulling at you equally. Oh, it is so hard. So this isn't an easy thing to answer. And I do think that Lindsay's comment about flexibility is important. If you take that time to outline what your boundaries are, there is going to be the need to flex and pivot from that, so that you are able to support kind of the upcoming things. And so I do think that flexibility is important. Sarah says, I like the idea of boundaries rather than balance. Yeah, I switched the B word because for me, I always felt like I was coming up short, like I could never achieve balance. And like, why are we trying to achieve the unattainable? That's just going to leave us all feeling pretty blah. So, Carrie, does that answer your question?
Yes, wonderful insight. Thank you.
All right, what other questions are out there? Don't be shy. Oh, any quick mindset tip you can share just in case we need to reflect and get back? Okay, so Melissa, I might need a little bit more insight here. So are you talking about like if you're in a moment and you feel a little bit hijacked or triggered and you need to be able to take a moment and then dive back in? Yes. Okay. I love this. There can be so many ways that you can find the ability to hit the reset button. Um, and you need to find the things that work best for you. I will give you a few examples of what work for me. Number one, gratitudes. I have a gratitude journal. I write in it every single day. If you're feeling really hijacked in the moment, physically move out of your space if you can and go somewhere else and write down or say out loud 5 things that you're grateful for in that moment. So not like I'm grateful for in that moment, if you're grateful for your home and I'm grateful for my health in that moment, if that's true, that's great. But I really want it to be specific for like right now. Like I'm grateful that I have an ergonomic chair to sit in so that my back doesn't feel like crap at the end of the day. Like that's something right now that I'm grateful for. So that's one thing that I can find can really take you from like feeling completely high strung and out of control to getting grounded again. I also like to step outside. I know that in the Pacific Northwest, sometimes that means we get wet, but getting some sunlight into your eyeballs actually scientifically is shown to help you feel more energetic. And it actually has an input in your circadian rhythm. So like getting cortisol in the morning and melatonin at night, helping you sleep and be awake and all those things. Getting sunlight, even if it's diffused through clouds, into your eyeballs in the morning time of the day is really helpful for that. And so just getting outside, getting sunlight into your eyes and taking a few deep breaths and then getting back to your space, that is another great thing. The third thing that I love to do is I have some peppermint essential oil and I will put 1 dab in my hand, rub them together, close my eyes and breathe. And for me personally, that is huge. It helps me kind of refocus. If those are like really quick tricks. Oh, the last one, I don't want to forget this one, is the box breath. And we can do this all together right now. I can take you through 1 box breath. And this can definitely help you like come down from stress and get your mind back into the present moment. So imagine a box or a rectangle, square or rectangle, and we're going to inhale our way up. We're going to hold for 4 seconds. We're going to exhale our way over, hold for 4 seconds, and do that again. So I can walk us all through it. So kind of get comfy in your chair. And I'm going to go inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, 4. So that actually engages your parasympathetic nervous system so that you can, physically move out of that stress and back into a place where you feel a little bit more grounded. I do think that if you need more reflection, that is something I would recommend to anyone, but those are kind of really quick things that you can just do on the fly in less than 2 minutes and kind of get grounded. You kind of got me up on a soapbox. I could talk about that forever. Okay. Tara says, how could you balance when you generally work more hours than you're awake at home? Oh my gosh, Tara, yes. And that's why I say it's not balance, because you can't balance. But if you can be really intentional instead, then you will be able to be present. And I truly believe that by being present in the moment is where you find the balance. So if you set a boundary that you need to be home by X time every single day, not every day are you going to achieve that boundary, but more often than not, hopefully you can. That means that when you're at work, you're present at work because you got to leave at 4:30. And when you're home, you're present at home because you haven't been home all day. And then you can actually enjoy like what you are sitting with at home. But that presence is key. So those boundaries plus being present in the moment is really key. But yeah, I mean, that is reality for all of us. So Zoe asks, you mentioned asking ourselves what our ideals would look like if we were fully resourced. What are some examples of resources we may not know we need? Oh, great question. So fully resourced is, how is your sleep? How is your hydration? Is your body being nourished? Are you getting movement? Are you getting social interaction with people that fill you up? Because we are the sum of the closest people we hang out with, right? And everything is going to be unique to you. So for me, I know you were thinking new printer, but you know what? That is something that could really help you in your day. So that's a great example, actually. I have made investments in my business that as soon as I made them, I felt a huge relief. And all of a sudden the stress that was going into that and the overwhelm of not having whatever that was gone. And I had space for new things. So I don't think it couldn't be something like a new printer. But it's something around when you're talking about setting boundaries. If you know that you are absolutely miserable on anything less than 7 hours of sleep, you need to set a boundary for yourself of when you're going to bed and when you wake up. Like, you know that about yourself, that needs to be a boundary. If you know that you are an outgoing person, you get filled up by spending time with other people now more than ever. You need to make sure that you're prioritizing throughout your day or throughout your week time where you get to connect with other people that can fill you up. And similarly, for the introverts out there, if being with others drains you, you need to make sure you're prioritizing some me time so that you fill your cup back up. So it's all about knowing yourself and what makes you feel whole. What makes you feel ready to start the day excited with energy? Like if you were to pop out of bed and be like, yes, I can't wait for this day. I feel great and I feel confident. What would be a part of your lifestyle that would enable you to feel that way? Now, again, this is ideal. It's not reality. So you'll have to take off your like reality logical hat and put on the hat of imagination in some cases, but it will help us get closer to that. Any other questions out there? Hmm. Ideas for staying socially connected during COVID. Oh, Lord. Let's ask everyone, what are your ideas for staying socially connected during COVID? Because I'm sure that there are some fabulous ideas out there. Um, WSU Alumni Association bingo. Woohoo, yes. Let's collectively bring our knowledge. Get outside when you can to meet people. Yes. Social hour with friends. Yes. I think it is so important to be able to talk about things that are not your job, your kids, if you're a parent, or COVID. Like, when can you talk about something other than those three things? Set FaceTime or Zoom calls with friends and make sure you actually follow through. Oh, Rachel, you are like hitting the nail on the head there, because we have such great intentions. And then when push comes to shove, it's like, I'm tired. I've been in front of the computer all day. And so sometimes it can be hard. I think I have also used some fun new apps. Marco Polo, which is like a video chatting app where you take a video of yourself talking and you send it, and it sends to your friend and then they talk back. There's also Voxer, which is just the same thing, but you're not on video. So if you're a hot mess still in bed with your hair sideways, it doesn't matter because they can't see you, but you're still able to connect that way. Driveway get-togethers, socially distant if the weather is nice. Totally. So we live in a cul-de-sac, and last year we actually took sidewalk chalk and created boxes for all the families, and the family would stay in their box, and they'd like set up their chairs and we'd have dinner out there. And it was awesome. There is, I'm sure that someone is going to know it. There's a game that you play on your phones, but you're all in a Zoom meeting, but you play on your phones and it's super fun. I don't remember what it is. Somebody help my mom bring Jackbox. Cindy, you are awesome. Jackbox.tv. It's so much fun. That is so much fun. Oh, Carrie, I was thinking this too. Send thank you cards, or a great gift is a digital picture frame. I do think that actually calling people on the phone, like calling your high school best friend that you only talk to once every 5 years, call her up or call him up and talk. Like we've gotten so far away with that from that and social media and everything else that that can be a really lovely way. And also like networking, things like this. I have a weekly call in my Facebook group. I've got a Facebook group called the Motivated Mompreneur Community, and we have a call every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time. We just get together, we chat about all the things, and it's like we're growing our families, ourselves, and our businesses alongside each other, and it's amazing. So, find a group of like-minded people that, get together on the regular and can kind of expand your network, and that can be great too. Any other questions out there? Well, if there aren't any other questions, I guess I'll turn it over to Carrie, but I just want to thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for joining today and for listening to what I have to say. And like I said, I would love to stay connected. So please reach out. I would love to be able to chat more. Oh, Tara asks, what do you use or recommend to stay organized? Well, that could be like a whole nother presentation. I end up with lots of paper notes everywhere. Oh, I love to use my phone. So I'm going to spell it out because otherwise she'll talk back to me. But let's say I need to remember to do something. So often it's like something for school for my kids. I'll say like, hey, SIRI, remind me at 2 p.m. today to call McKenna's school and let them know that, so-and-so is going to be picking her up. Little things like that helps me stay so much more organized instead of like sticky notes everywhere, things falling through the cracks, or my to-do list getting chock full of things just like that, like those little things you need to remember. That is one of the best things I've started doing. But go ahead and if you are on Instagram, Tara, follow me over on Instagram. Every single week I have productivity tips that I share on Wednesdays. There could be lots of good stuff there because I know we're kind of running low on time, but also happy to chat with you offline as well. Oh my gosh, Mary, thank you. I almost didn't join because I'm so busy and overwhelmed. Mary, I'm so happy that you came, and I really hope that you are taking something away that can help you battle that overwhelm. You're welcome, Janelle. Oh, you all go Cougs. I love you. This was awesome. Carrie, thank you so much for inviting me. This was great.
Well, thank you, Hilary, so much for being here and spending some time with us this morning. This was a phenomenal presentation. I know I learned a lot and have some great tools to add to my toolkit to hopefully become more productive and hold myself accountable. So again, thank you so much. And everyone, I popped the link in the chat on where you can find the recorded webinar. If you want to go back and reference some of the great points that Hilary touched on this morning, that should be up by the end of today. So feel free to check that out, and please share it with others who you think might benefit from this presentation. So with that, we will go ahead and sign off. Thank you everybody for joining us. And we will send out an email with information on the next Cougar Career Academy installment once that gets scheduled. So thanks again for being here. Go Cougs and enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks everyone.